right, everyone. Well, thank you. And sorry we're getting started just a few minutes late, but thank you to all of those of you who are joining us on a Saturday morning to learn a little bit more about the UCLA Anderson Executive MBA program and just kind of how your future and investing time in yourself. I congratulate you all on taking some time to do that as well as you think about your future and next steps. For those of you that I don't know, my name is Shannon Bell. I am the director of the admissions and marketing for the Executive MBA program. And I'm joined by some of my colleagues today who you might know, Christina, Sarika, and Vanessa, who are part of the admissions team as well. And we hope to get to know you through this process. So for some of you, this may be your first event. Others you may have joined, but I want to just do a few announcements before we jump into the content of today's event. So during the pandemic and just over the last kind of 2 years, we've recorded a lot of our webinars that we've done. So today's specifically on the topic of kind of entrepreneurship and our culture here at Anderson, but we've done events across a lot of different industry topics with student and alumni panels. What's it like to be a parent in the program? How do you finance your MBA? A lot of different topics. So please definitely keep an eye out. We'll send you afterwards the links on how to view a lot of those different webinars as you continue to learn about the program. Also, this is a little bit of a larger group, and you're definitely going to have time to ask questions today, especially of our awesome alumni panelists. But we will also do other events where you can have a little more intimate environment if you want to ask questions. So we do one-on-one appointments and we do small group Q&As. Our students do the small group Q&As too, and more of those are going to start up in the winter and spring of next year. So just keep an eye out on different ways to connect with us, but we're always happy to connect one-on-one, especially if there's something very specific to your background that you want to discuss. So just wanted to make sure that was clear today. And then we do have our first application deadline coming up. So December 1st, for those of you, you may be working on it. Others, you're like, this is my first event. So no problem. Our application is open until May 1st. We're on a rolling admission basis, so you can submit whenever you're ready. And just so you know, if you're working on it over the holidays, even if we're waiting for your official transcripts or waiting on your recommenders to submit their forms, you can still submit your application even with kind of just some of the basics and get the ball rolling. So wanted to make sure and call all that out before we got started today. So today, though, our session is specifically on fostering a culture of entrepreneurship and innovation. And this is actually coming at the end of our Embracing Diversity Week. So some of you may see my background. It's the Zoom background we had for our conference this week. And we marketed it. Some of you may have attended a few of the sessions because we did market these sessions together. And Embracing Diversity Week is a week-long conference we have at Anderson. It brings together prospective students as well as alumni and students. And it really is just a lot of different topics related to equity, diversity, and inclusion. Our student clubs do some of the sessions, our centers, and then our programs as well. And we had over, I think we had 13 events this past week, over 30 different speakers. And so this is something we do annually. So definitely something that if you missed this year, you can participate in the future. But today's event, what we decided is, one, we will be talking a little bit upfront about the culture at Anderson and specifically within the EMBA program and kind of what does that culture look like. Our alumni are definitely going to be able to touch on that as well. And then we decided to choose entrepreneurship as our topic for today, because many people, I think, come to look at executive MBA programs and think that they're all about, oh, well, I must be at an executive level and I must be looking to get into the C-suite, and it's all about enhancing, your career as far as moving up the ladder. And while that is who some of our student population is, we also have a lot of people who are looking to switch careers. So maybe they're looking to switch their function or their industry. We have people who are explorers. They're coming and they're figuring out what they really want to do next. And we have tools and resources for that. And for many, it might overlap with entrepreneurship. And this is somewhere where I think for executive MBA programs across the country, we have some really unique offerings. So we wanted to be able to walk you through that today. And what you're going to hear from our panelists is it's really the spirit of entrepreneurship. Not everybody quits their job and becomes a full-time entrepreneur, but some of our students do. And some, continue to learn about how kind of to start something from scratch and maybe even end up working with their teammates, even as they move on in their careers, more corporate careers. So that's what we're going to cover today, and just look forward to you being here. I'll have a little bit of a presentation up front. The majority of the time is going to be spent with our alumni panel, and then we will go into plenty of time for your questions as well. So first, I just wanted to talk to you a little bit about that. These are our 3 pillars and values here at Anderson: share success, think fearlessly, and drive change. And this is really coming in with this philosophy. This is really how we define kind of how you think about our culture here. And I think one of the most important ones that I hear alumni and students talk a lot about is this share success. This is not an environment where it's meant to be dog eat dog and you're competing for the same jobs. The EMBA program and Anderson as a whole is a very supportive environment where people really do want to see each other succeed, figure out ways that they can collaborate together. The thinking fearlessly and driving change, as UCLA is the #1 public university in the country 5 years in a row, we really look to the broader UCLA, and some of our students or alumni will be able to talk about this today, but really the broader value of Anderson being a public institution, and really thinking fearlessly about the future and driving change as part of that. So I wanted to break down what our class profile looks like a little, because this was for our 40th year actually of EMBA students that started this past fall, so just a few months ago. And this just gives you a bit of a snapshot of what the group looks like. And I think you're going to hear the alumni say it, and I hear it over and over again. Really, your classmates and who they are is such a big part of what this program is about. So we get people from all different types of kind of industries and functions. That is really one of our differentiators, I think, for Anderson, because even though we're located in a big metropolitan area, we don't have just like 1 or 2 dominant industries like some of the other schools you might see across the country. We really embrace that we only have no one industry or function is represented at more than 15%, and we're really proud of that. And then from a kind of cultural diversity standpoint, 40% female we hit this year. That's up from 33% in years past. So we're really proud of that. And then 24% from underrepresented identities. So that is people who are either African American, Latinx, Pacific Islander, Native American, and that's up from actually 13% from the year before. So again, really wanting to focus on both that cognitive diversity as well as kind of that cultural diversity as well. When it comes to kind of that cognitive diversity side, this is something really unique. The way we set up our study groups, we actually call them mini boards, because what we're aiming to do with your study groups is ensure, and a lot of thought goes into this, that each person comes from a distinct industry and functional area. So almost like we're setting up what a board of directors would look like. And you get 3 of these groups while you're in the program. The first 2 we will assign for you, and you do them in 2-quarter increments. And your final group you'll actually put together. And we still encourage you to really think about this mini board model when you put together that group, but it's who you'll work with your capstone thesis on. And so this is kind of an example here of a group, but definitely that adds to your ability to be able to really kind of get out of your comfort zone and work with people and see how people solve challenges that you might be facing in your career or work as well, but seeing how someone thinks so differently about working through those challenges. It's also an opportunity for you to work on kind of your leadership style and be really vulnerable with a group of people with maybe experimenting sitting in a different type of a role than you normally sit in, and asking your teammates to really support you as you test out some of these things that maybe you feel more comfortable in an education environment and less comfortable maybe in your corporate environment. So wanted to break down a little bit more for you kind of what that cultural diversity looks like. So as I said, we're at 40% women. When it comes to the diversity of where people come from around the world, while most of our students do live in the US, we have 29 birth countries represented. And then you can see kind of the diversity and how it breaks down to race and ethnicity as far as people's backgrounds and what they bring to campus. We definitely are working, even since some of the students who've been here, the alumni, who are going to be on our panel today, even since they've been students and just a few years ago, we've actually even added more equity, diversity, and inclusion type of conversations into our curriculum. It just continues to build. We actually are launching our strategic plan for the school. It's a 5 to 10 year plan, and EDI in the curriculum is continuing to be a focus. So just want to mention that, and definitely happy to talk more about that for anybody who's interested. As far as kind of the broader Anderson community, these are all of our different identity clubs that are on campus. So I will say that majority of the time, these are kind of run by full-time students, but definitely, and some of our panelists today can talk about this, definitely some of our EMBA students who are interested in this area get involved within these identity clubs. And it's definitely a way to get to know and connect with the broader Anderson community of full-time students, part-time MBA students, as well as the executive MBA students. And another thing is that we do have, and this just started a few years ago, we do on our Executive MBA Council have 6 positions, 3 for each class year, who are equity, diversity, and inclusion representatives, really helping us continue to think about what the cohort needs and help to connect with the broader Anderson community in pushing some of these improvements and driving change. And finally, just kind of finishing off this section, we have events that happen throughout the year that really, again, focus on some of these embracing diversity principles. So our Embracing Diversity Conference, as well as our Women's Leadership Conference, celebrating different kind of people, different type of identities throughout the year. And I had to mention our What's Going On Embracing Dialogue series, which was actually started by one of our panelists today, Tori Harris, who's a graduated student of the 2021 class. In the wake of George Floyd in the summer of 2020, she really took up the leadership position across the entire school, working with the dean of EDI, and created this What's Going On dialogue series to just talk about some of the issues that were going on. And even as she's graduated, this has continued. So I think a great example of where EMBAs, if this is a topic of interest for you, you can really make a difference. I also wanted to mention that the EMBA program has its own leadership speaker series. And while there's plenty of opportunities across the campus, there's always some kind of workshop going on or event going on where you get to hear from great speakers. These are some of the recent EMBA leadership speakers that we've had. So it just gives you a sense, even in that sense, we're trying to bring in people from all different types of industries, people who come from all different types of backgrounds. And this is really a deep dive into their leadership experience, as well as they talk about kind of, again, their personal background. How did they get to where they are? What type of challenges do they face? So these are some of our recent speakers. I know I have Tom Larson in my head, who is our executive director of leadership and career at Anderson. And he's going to say, don't promise these speakers to prospects when they come, but we don't, we bring in speakers kind of in this vein every year. Some of these people come back every year, and others we try and get, but these are a sense of kind of some of the speakers that we bring in. So now shifting gear a little bit into how do we support entrepreneurship at Anderson. And again, this topic area I wanted to bring up because I think that this is an area where I hear from I hear from our alumni, I hear from students, I hear from prospects that we have a unique offering that other schools don't necessarily bring to the table for their executive MBA students. So these are some of our electives at the top that you can see that support entrepreneurship. I specifically highlight our entrepreneurship and venture initiation and business plan development class, because those are the 2 most common classes that are offered on the EMBA schedule schedule that are part of kind of the path. If you decide to get on that entrepreneurship path, you'll want to take these classes and these electives to help prepare you for your capstone thesis, which is called business creation option. But these classes are definitely ones that are available to you. They're not always all available on the EMBA weekend schedule, but definitely available on the weeknights in the evenings, or maybe during the day if you can get away a certain quarter, but definitely available to you to help support you in your growth and learning. We also have the Price Center for Entrepreneurship. So across all of our different centers, we have the Price Center, which supports entrepreneurs and brings in various speakers as well. There is the Entrepreneurship Association. So that's our club, our student club that you can interact with and go to some of their events. And then we do have an accelerator on campus. So this is not a funding accelerator, it's more of a support accelerator, but they have a lot of different programs that I'll dive into a little bit as well. And they're right on our campus. So one of our one-of-a-kind EMBA experiences is that for your capstone thesis, and many of you will be, I'm sure, attending other schools' presentations and learning about it. You have many of the programs have a capstone thesis where you do a consulting project. You work with a real life company, you work with teammates to do a consulting project. That is an option we have. It's called the Strategic Management Research Project. And that's an option you can choose. But we also have business creation option, and this is rising in popularity. We've been doing this since the graduating class of 2014 for our full-time and FEMBA program, but it just recently launched in 2017 with our EMBA program. And now about half of our students choose this route, and they really find it a reason that they come to Anderson or consider Anderson. So just a couple stats that these BCO companies, about 50% of them actually do launch and move forward, go forward with either fundraising or providing some of their own capital in launching. Some of these companies were all started by Anderson graduates. So some of them are you might know and be really familiar with, and others like Santa Beads, IGPS Watch, Indira. These are some EMBA specific companies. An Indian restaurant is the Indira. Santa Beads is a bracelet that actually has hand sanitizer in it, so it's easy to access it. And that was actually created before the pandemic. So very interesting there. And then iGPS Watch, which is a smart watch that children can wear. So to be able to have some safety features as well as interactive features for children. And then we have some companies here today for our alumni who will talk about the companies they launched out of this program as well. As I mentioned, the venture accelerators there is extra support as well. So they have two different programs that you can participate in. One is when you're a student. So if you're in ideation stage and you want to go through their 3-month Activate program, that's an opportunity for you to participate in, as well as their Accelerate program, which usually happens upon graduation or later on, even as an alumni, you can come back and participate in the Accelerate program. Both of these programs also provide a lot of mentorship. You get workspace at the campus if that comes back to be. So a lot of different opportunities to work with the accelerator as well. It's a great group of team over there. This is some stats around kind of what this accelerator has brought forward: 73 different companies, $43 million in sales revenue, and $144 million in fundraising raised. And again, that's not raised by the accelerator. That's actually through kind of working with your own fundraising process and getting investors. So you've heard me talk for enough time now. Today is really, I think, an opportunity. I wanted to give you kind of a baseline and foundation, but today it's really about hearing from our alumni, because I think they're going to be able to, they have been sitting in your shoe at some point in time. And so they can all really give you a little bit more real life example of their journey to an MBA and why they chose Anderson, why they were interested in entrepreneurship, and kind of what that learning has done for them. So we're actually going to do this. They're a panel, but we've had some success in the past where each panelist is going to actually speak for about 10 to 15 minutes to just give you a bit of their story. And then we'll dive in with Q&As, and that'll be an opportunity for your Q&A. So please think about any questions you may have. And they're open books. They're some of my favorite alumni, so they'll be able to give you, an idea of what the experience was like. So I'm going to stop talking and turn it over. You know what? Let's go ahead and just start in order. I'm actually going to take it off the screen because I think it's nicer to be able to see people full faced, and see people up front and personal. So Belinda, if you, I'm going to stop my screen share and go ahead if you want to get us started today.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I'm actually super honored to be on this panel today, especially with the rest of these folks. I just adore each one of them, and Shannon and Christina. So great to see you guys. So I can go ahead and get started a little bit about my company, just to give you guys a foundation of where I've come from, and then I'll get a little bit more into some of the EMBA and Anderson stuff. If it's possible, can I share my deck? If you can make me a host.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. So my name is Belinda Lau. I'm an EMBA 2020. So I graduated on Zoom just like this, which is cool. And I am the CEO and co-founder of LM's Oral Care. We are sort of like an Anderson baby, I would say. I had the idea at Anderson, took it through a couple different accelerators, including BCO, which you guys may be familiar with. And we launched about a year after I graduated. So I'll get a little bit into that, but I thought it'd be more interesting to start with the company and what we're trying to do. That way you can kind of see what my journey has been. So what we have been trying to do with our products is really be at the cross section of clinically backed oral care and sustainability. So, I had this idea. I was literally in the car on the 405 on my way to an office hour with Professor George Abe, who is one of the professors of entrepreneurship for the EMBA class. And I love this guy because he is called the dream killer. He is the person that you pitch your idea and he will tell you, don't waste your time, don't waste your money. And so I remember driving down the 405. It was in my first year. And I was listening to a podcast called How I Built This. And it's a podcast about founders and their stories and their mistakes and successes. And it's just such a great podcast. If you guys haven't listened in on it, you really should. It really has given me a lot of insights into entrepreneurship and kind of seeing what other people have done. And in this particular day, I was listening to a podcast about Tom's Shoes, and their business model when they launched was, for every shoe that is purchased, they donate a pair of shoes. And I just love the ethos of it. I love the mission behind it. And I just thought, man, I should do something very similar. My background is in product development for medical devices. I spent 15 years at Medtronic, Fortune 500 company. And I really wanted to combine my background, something I knew how to do, with something I actually cared about. So sustainability is very core to my life. I've grown up, composting and recycling, carrying my own water bottle and utensils everywhere. That's just who I am. And my husband actually, and he's a UCLA dentist, and he and I have been talking for years about doing something together. And so that's how we kind of came up with this idea. And in fact, we started together with another MBA classmate, Pradnya. She's still a co-founder, but she's since exited the company. And I can tell you that story on another panel, but we're still good friends. I just, even last night I had drinks with her, but that was the core of the business. And what we did was, when we had the idea, really in entrepreneurship, if you've got an idea, the first thing you need to do is go figure out how big is this nut? Like, how big is this market? Not how big is your solution, but necessarily how big is the market? And so that's the first thing I did. I went to, UCLA's library, and I looked up industry reports and things like that to figure out like how big is this problem in oral care. And the total addressable market is growing. It's over $50 billion. I was like, if it's over like 20 billion, I'm good. Like I can find a slice in this pie somewhere. And so some of the solutions that we were looking at, what's our serviceable obtainable market? It's like close to a billion or 3 billion if we do this correctly. So I was like, oh yeah, I mean, it's a massive market, very little in competition. Surprisingly, there's only a few companies who are doing it. So I was like, can I make a difference here? Can my unique background and my resources that I have access to make a difference here? And so the other thing that we looked at was really like, where is the white space here, right? So what we did is using a lot of the resources at UCLA through some of the professors and the alumni, the people in my class, and the access to the databases that UCLA has access to. I actually found that this cross section that we were trying to go for between sustainable and clinically effective, nobody there. It's like literally everybody's either clinical or they're sustainable. So you got bamboo toothbrushes on one side that quite frankly don't work to clean your teeth. And then you've got like clinically backed stuff. No one is in this corner that we're looking at. So I was like, oh, it's a massive market and there's no one here. It's great. So that's where we started from. And I honestly use so many resources at UCLA to come to this conclusion. And so back in July, we launched LMs. And if you guys can't remember the name of my company, it's literally the word smile backwards. And it's really a play on the smile that you see in the mirror. Like we really want you to love your reflection, right? And so that's where we came up with it. And it's also got a play on like LMs, eliminating waste, eliminating cavities, bad vibes, whatever it is, right? And so these are our hero products. We have 3 right now. We have a teeth whitening product that's won several awards. You'll see in a little bit, we've got a lot of press and recognition. We have 2 toothpastes that are in the natural category, but use a mineral called nanohydroxyapatite. That's a replacement to fluoride, has been used in Asia for over 40 years. A lot of clinical backing behind it. All of our packaging is renewable, so renewable and sustainably sourced, and is recyclable going forward, which you don't really see in our category. And we are sort of all over the news. Right out of the gate when we launched in July, we were on Yahoo Finance, and a lot of major news outlets. Our press release went to like the New York Times and Yahoo and things like that. We were on a morning show here in Los Angeles called Good Day LA, where we were featured. This one of the co-anchors, Sandra Endos, featured our product. We won a couple awards. I've won awards. So I was named in Forbes Next 1000 list earlier this year, actually back in September. Our products have been featured in Vogue as like innovators and things like that. So a lot of great press, still really early on in the business. We have our products on our website. This is lms.com, and we have a couple retail partners. We are in Schofield's department store out of New York City. It's a premium, like a luxury department store that's based in New York City and Miami. We launched on a few sustainable marketplaces in the luxury category. And we're also on Amazon, which is really, really cool. And that's a whole other panel. So this is the crew. I mentioned before that my husband, Casey, who's a UCLA dentist, he's one of our co-founders. And then our other co-founder, Pradya, she doesn't participate in the company anymore. She's sort of like an advisor, but equity advisor, but not participating in the day-to-day. We've got some great advisors and mentors. This is a really small snapshot of all my advisors. I got like 100 advisors at this point for different things. And a lot of them came from the Anderson network. Okay, so that's my business. Just going really quickly. Shannon, how much time do I have? Am I good?
Yeah, a few more minutes. This would be great. Yeah.
Yeah, I'll breeze through this. So, I grew up in Canada. And the reason why I bring this up is because when I was a kid, my parents were immigrants. I was born and raised in Canada. We were super poor. My parents, they were entrepreneurs. And when I tell my parents that, they're like, we weren't entrepreneurs, we were just trying to survive. And so they opened up a gift shop in Vancouver, and that's where I grew up. That's where I learned everything from marketing to inventory management, operations, right? All of those things. That's what really set the foundation for me to become or think about becoming an entrepreneur. I went to college at Carnegie Mellon University, double majored in material science and biomedical engineering, spent 15 years at Medtronic, mostly in product development marketing, got a bunch of patents. This is my favorite product here that I worked on at Medtronic. It's called the Miniman 670G. It was the first artificial pancreas. We were featured in Time Magazine as Invention of the Year a couple of years ago, Popular Science, really great stuff. This is my crew at home. It's my booze. So it's my husband, Casey, obviously, my oldest son, Braden, Ryan, Nolan, and then the doggo is Penny. So let's get to the meat of this, of why you guys have been listening to my presentation. So why UCLA and why Anderson? I'm going to look down at my notes here because I really did not want to miss out on a couple points. So we took our business through BCO, and our team is actually in this lower left-hand corner. You can see us in front of the accelerator. This honestly was one of the best teams I've ever worked with in my entire life. Like, this crew of people, I love each and every one of them. We all came from diverse backgrounds, but we took LMs through the early stages to through graduation. And I still love these folks to death, and they've been very helpful even to this day, advising me in different places, helping me, connecting me with their networks, and anything that I need. I just reach out, one simple text, and they're like, don't worry, I got this. So, we had a lot of resources here, and I wanted to point some of these out to you guys. If you guys are thinking of starting a business, the Venture Accelerator Shannon mentioned is really great. We didn't actually go through the program, but we participated in some of their events. One of them was Pitch Day or Demo Day at Google here in Venice, presenting to like 400 people, advisors, investors, different people in the UCLA community. So everybody has access to that. We also applied for every competition that UCLA offered. So everything at Anderson, but also in different parts of the UCLA community. So one of the ones that we won was the Lowell Milken Prize, which is out of the law school. So we got second prize there. We won $25,000. I mean, that's like, in startup terms, that's like life-changing money. So definitely you guys have all access to that. And you really have access to any competitions that are in the student category. I mean, Rice University, Berkeley has a lot of competitions that as long as you're a student, you have access to. And we did win a few of those as well. We did some collaborations with the law school and a couple different departments. One thing that I want to point out too is the clubs are really great, even though, a lot of them are geared towards the full-time students. All the EMBAs do have access to them. One or two that I want to mention specifically that I joined was the Entrepreneurs Association. They have all kinds of like hidden gems of events and mentors, just access to a ton of different things. So that's a great one. The other one that I joined is the Jewish Business Students Association. And I'm not Jewish, but a huge fan of that community. So I joined because a very good friend of mine was the president at the time, Guy Rosenthal. And I joined because I really wanted to understand this community better. I wanted to know like whether their cultures, their traditions, how they think. And honestly, it was amazing. They invited me with open arms to like Shabbat dinners and things like that, which is so fun. But let's be honest, like if you're trying to do business in Los Angeles or even in California, you cannot do business without understanding the Jewish community. So that's pretty much why I did it from a business perspective. Another resource that's great on campus is the Technology Development Group at UCLA. They have a ton of resources for entrepreneurs. One that I applied to and got in was Startup in a Box, which you present to the crew. And you get, if you get accepted, you get access to a lot of like startup sort of resources. So law firms, like if you're trying to incorporate accountants, HR, some marketing agencies and things like that. So they probably saved us probably like $10,000 to $15,000 $1,000 out of the gate just by applying for those programs. So those are all available to you, even as alumni, I believe. And then I would be remiss if I didn't mention just the network at Anderson, the alumni network, obviously, but also the other students at the time, the full-time students, the fully employed, the FEMBA students as well. Like I found that the full-time students, man, these people, they're much younger than me, but they came with such like maturity and insight to different parts of, things that I was struggling with the business. And I really, my business became better because I was interacting with them and I wouldn't have access to them otherwise. So that's, I would say those are the resources. My overall experience with UCLA and the EMBA program, this program is like, when I come back to campus or I see people like Shannon and Christina, it's like I'm coming home. Like this is literally like a part of my life that I cherish so much, that's been super supportive, like Shannon mentioned, sharing successes. And honestly, even like texting like Sumita, that she'll hear from later, I'll text her something and she sends me all kinds of amazing words that like lifts my spirits. I mean, I've never met Sumita in person. I have only talked to her on the phone or seen her on Zoom, but that's the kind of community and the people that are at Anderson as a whole, but also specifically in the EMBA program. So if you guys are on the fence about like, should I do it or not, just the network and the people alone are honestly life-changing. And I couldn't have done what I did with how hard entrepreneurship without this very specific community. So I'm a huge fan. So I think that's my time and I can answer any questions later.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate, Belinda, that. And I love hearing that you and Sumita, because you're not even the same class year, right?
No.
Like that's what's so cool.
No, I'm a huge fan of Sumita.
And I love that. So thank you so much for sharing your journey and story today. I really appreciate that. And I think what's interesting about each of our panelists as we get into them, like everybody kind of has had a different, I think Belinda, and I'm excited to hear the update from Sumita, are running the companies that they started, and then Javier and Tori can share more about their experience. So thank you so much. Sumita, how about you go up next?
Thanks. I'm so happy to go after Belinda. And, Belinda said all these nice things, but like, seriously, she's so, I consider her a mentor and a friend, and we have never met. One day we will. But what's amazing is, I love following her because our styles are so different. She's so organized. She had a PowerPoint presentation. I'm just going to randomly talk. And I don't know if I'm going to take up the full 10 minutes. Or Tori and Xavier, you're good. Don't worry about it. So, I was looking over the questions Shannon sent, and then I got a text from Christina. She's like, "Are you coming?" I was like, "Yep." Oh gosh, I better wash my hair. That's what I was thinking at that point. I was like, "All right, I'll look good for these guys. It's not just COVID Zoom. It's got to look good." So I got my shirt. I washed my hair, so I'm good.
Thank you, Sumita, for doing that. We appreciate it.
No, I mean, Christina was just like, "Are you coming?" I was like, "Yeah, I was going to come anyways," but I was like, "Okay, let's wash the hair." So, my background is kind of like Belinda's in so much that I took like a career pivot. So I tell people, when I was talking with Sarika about joining the EMBA program, like seriously, the first question I had was, look, am I going to be the grandma in the class? Because I'm going to be in my 40s, so I cannot be the oldest person in the class. I can't have like a bunch of 20 somethings or early 30 somethings. And she assured me that I would not be. And it was true. I was not. So I felt very welcome. They do a really good job of, diversifying, not just the geographic spectrum and the industry spectrum, but also the age spectrum. And I thought that was very important because you want to be able to like make references to bad 80s movies and have people understand them. It's important. Those are the kind of things that, you connect with. So thank you, Sarika, for taking that call. That random call in February, and for helping me talk through my own emotional insecurities about my age at that point, going back to school after, gosh, I think it was like a decade. So what was my reason for joining the MBA program? It really was, I've been purely technical my whole career, and I've always been in these meetings where they're like, oh, that's cute. You're the technical person, but you're not the business person. And I just found it so offensive and infuriating because I was like, dude, I could do what you do. Can you do what I do? And it just like, when you start thinking that way, it's like, okay, well, I would bitch about it to my sister. And she's like, all right, that's enough complaining. Are you going to actually action and do something about this? And that's when I said, okay, you know what, let me go and find out what this whole MBA thing is about. And that's when I started looking at the programs. And I live in Texas. So naturally, I should have gone to UT Austin. It's a great school, but I just really could not bring myself to stay in Texas for my MBA program. I really wanted to branch out, and UCLA has the global network. Texas does too, but when you think of global reach and really getting diversity, UCLA checks that box really well. And when I came to, sit in on the classes, when Shannon started off talking about share success, and think differently, and just the mottos behind Anderson, they actually live it. I sat in the 2020 class and they welcomed me to dinner, and it was just amazing. Like, I got to crash their party and they completely welcomed me, and the food was fantastic. So that's the other thing. When you guys do get to go on campus, the food is absolutely to die for. You'll gain like 20 pounds, but it's worth it. Totally worth it. So that was kind of, my decision point. And then a little bit about me. So I do something like crazy radical every 10 years, I guess. So in my 20s, I said, okay, screw this. I'm not going to be a programmer anymore. I'm going to go join the Navy. That was after the 9/11 terrorist attacks. Fantastic move on my part because it gave me focus. And then in my 30s, I was like, wow, I really enjoy this. So I went to go work at the National Security Agency. And that was even more fun, doing all that cool spy stuff. And then after doing that for a while, I was like, all right, we got Bin Laden. Now what? It's like, all right, now what? So you got to think about what are you going to do to leave a lasting impact? And that's what really drove me into the MBA. And in my 40s, I really wanted to embrace something challenging, and becoming an entrepreneur is, oh my God, it is totally challenging. It's taking a risk and going off the deep end. But what's great about Anderson is that it allows you a safe space to do that. I see Tanya's in the audience as well. So I was able to join a program that Tanya runs because of COVID, because of the Zoom environment. She runs, it was called LA Startup Boost at the time, and now it's called Founders Boost. And so all of these opportunities were open to us during the program. And part of it was taking advantage of the fact that, hey, the entire world is going through, she also laughs at the age jokes. Thanks, Tanya. Everybody was going through this like awkwardness together. And because of that, you're kind of seeing people's resiliency. And that's a great opportunity to see, hey, how do people handle when shit hits the fan? Like, how do people handle themselves? How do they behave? And that was what I was seeing is like people's character. And it was really nice because it gave you an opportunity to know, okay, wow, my judgment on some of these things were right and some of them were wrong, but it allowed you to understand, wow, this person, I want this person in my corner all the time. And Belinda's one of those people for sure. So Tanya is one of those people. So it's good to meet those people and find out, okay, wow, these guys are going to be with you and you can call them anytime and they're going to help you through it. Let me give a shout out to a couple of programs here because I think it's really important to emphasize that it's not just the Anderson Venture Accelerator. Trish and Janet are fantastic. I did the Summer Activate program, but what we really got the most from was the cross-campus collaboration. And that is so important because, you could spend your entire time just being in Anderson and you could have that as your silo, but you're doing yourself a disservice by not exploring the rest of the school. I mean, UCLA has a design school. Did you know that? I had no idea until I started looking for a designer. There's a design school. There's a fantastic engineering school. And that's who we started working with in the Cross Campus Innovation Challenge that Professor Terry Kramer runs. And because of that, we were able to find the idea. It's not even my idea for the company that we founded. So we thought, okay, wow, let's do this med tech, cancer diagnostic startup. And we originally started off with the name X Out Cancer. And I kind of want to tell you guys, wow, we thought we were so clever with that name because we were using exosomes, we're outing cancer, and it was so clever. It's a concatenation. And then we joined the UCLA biodesign program that's run by Jennifer McHaney. And Jennifer was so polite, so nice about it. And she just very gently nudged us to reanalyze our name and said, do some introspection. Have you ever heard of a cancer diagnostic company with the word cancer in their name? I was like, don't, we have to change our name. So we changed our name to Noor Labs. And the reason why we picked Noor as the name is because Noor means light, and our technology is photonics-based spectroscopy. So it seemed to fit, and it was just a much more positive connotation. And those are the kind of things that you would expect to hear from Anderson, but I heard it from biodesign because everyone at Anderson was like, oh, that's a cool name, X Out Cancer, great. And they loved it. They drank our Kool-Aid. So it's good to get an outside perspective sometimes. And they will tell you, wow, maybe that's not such a great idea. Maybe you won't succeed as far with that. So the biodesign program is what we did. And I can't say enough good things about that program because it allows you to really work with UCLA Health, to work with UCLA Engineering, as well as UCLA Anderson. So these three pillars came together to form, the foundation for Noor Labs. And I think that we could not have done it without all of these wonderful people. George Abe is one of them, Shinrock's another person, just coming together to help us move forward. I will pass it over to Tori because I think I've talked for a very long time, much longer than I intended to.
Samita, this is great. And I think this was one of the reasons I wanted you on the panel, because you have done something that I think I've seen other students do, but you really use that cross UCLA campus, and took advantage of all those ways to engage. So thank you for sharing. This is all these, we're texting in the background. These are all going to become video snippets on the website because you guys each have such a unique journey. So thank you so much for sharing. Tori, well, it looked like Belinda teed up Sumita teed up Tori. So Tori, make sure to tee up Javier at the end.
I will tee up Javier. And I feel so honored and blessed to go after Belinda and Sumita because I was just so engrossed in their story. I have seen Belinda in passing. Sumita and I are in the same class. So just hearing her journey and where it is, I watched her team and her company grow. And she's right. We did drink the Kool-Aid on the name because it made sense. It made sense to us. But they both are doing awesome things. And it is all thanks to Anderson. You joke around in the beginning about Belinda being so organized and having the slides. And I was about to text you and say, oh man, do you have slides? And oh no, okay. But that's the beauty of Anderson. And the beauty of these panels is that it really allows you to be you and to present yourself and your authentic self. So my name is Tori Harris. I am class of 2021 with Sumita, and my background is in the legal field. So I always knew from a little girl I wanted to be a lawyer, and that just never changed. I stuck with it. People are always, when you're growing up, you either want to be a doctor or a lawyer, and it stuck with me. It permeated in my heart. And back then, I always thought that I wanted to be a defense attorney. I was an only child. And, when your parents just always blame you for everything, it's just like, well, who's sticking up for me? I don't have any brothers. I don't have any sisters. Where's my voice? And that where's my voice has always stayed with me, no matter where I was in my career. So fast forward, I attended undergrad at Syracuse in New York, stayed in upstate New York and attended law school in Albany. And went back home after law school and got a job with the federal agency. And there I practiced personnel law and some privacy matters. And I wanted more litigation experience and to round out my own communication skills. So I moved into a different group where I can get some government contract appeal litigation experience. But my heart since law school, and actually since undergrad, has always been in California. And so somewhere down the line, I got the bug and I said, I'm going to be this big agent one day. I'm going to be the biggest sports agent. And I'm dating myself, but we're recorded, but this is a safe space, right? So I went to school with Donovan McNabb, and I remember telling him one day, I'm going to be your agent. He just laughed. And at that time, he knew where his career was going. And so that was just always in my mind. And I finally got the chance to come to California, dropped everything, quit my job, and came out here just with hope and a dream. And life kind of did not work out the way my hope and my dream, the way I envisioned it. And I liken that story to my time on the mountain, where I was always so used to being on top, and I never knew how to fail. And so I had to learn how to fall and how to get back up. And as hurtful as that journey was, it was repetitive. It was just like God was saying, you have to learn this lesson because I have something for you. But in the middle of everything, you're thinking, what am I here to learn? I wanted to start my own agency. And at that point, I didn't know how to start a business. I didn't have the tools. I just had this passion. And I still had this little girl mentality, even though at the time I was 30, I had this little girl mentality of saying, if I beg people enough, they'll come on my side. And that's just not how you kind of form your business and make it grow and be sustainable. But in the midst of that, those experiences, I learned how to communicate with people better. Actually, in the beginning, I had a job working at a bank, and I had to learn how to relate to the community. And I had to learn different things. But with all of that learning and all of that journey, in my mind, there were some failures. And so some insecurities started to rise up in me. I later kind of got back on my feet and went into the aerospace industry in a non-legal capacity. And I was hit with some more insecurities, some more blind spots in my life, some more things in my personality that I needed to hone. And really what I was faced with was I needed to learn how to be secure in me and who I was. And I got to the point where I wanted to give up on some things. And I took a step back and I said, God, I'm not going to move forward until you say, get up. And it was around 2018, I believe. And he said, get up, time to try again. So I knew the MBA was always in my plans, just never knew when. And so I started exploring it. I started looking at it. And I went to an MBA fair. I met Shannon. She gave an awesome talk just to me. And it was just us. And, I was kind of intrigued at that moment. Talked to Christina on the phone, and she kind of gave me some encouragement. And I had my interview with Serica. And the one thing she said about my story is that it has resiliency. And for me, it was a turning moment because I needed to learn how to switch my story so that I could become that entrepreneur that I wanted. I could have that business mind. And so they all gave me the confidence to take another leap of faith, to get up and do what God said, and that's to try again. So applied to UCLA, the rest is history. And I still had those blind spots. I still struggled with that imposter syndrome. But I was still finding me. I was still finding my voice. And I was still finding that I had a love of protecting other people's voices. And so Shannon in the beginning mentioned the What's Going On series that I helped create with Dean Caruso. She's an amazing woman. And so the vision of that was really to give the Anderson students a voice and talking about things that you wouldn't normally talk about in your courses. And so there's a lot going on in the world. There's a lot going on in campus, and there's a lot going on with individuals. And so it gives you that opportunity. And I kind of say that that's been my best entrepreneurial effort, because it took the right team, it took the right dedication, it took the right spirit. And I finally knew what it was going to take to bring things together. So that was kind of a really, really good testing ground for me. So in my BCO capstone project, we actually teamed up. I was the only female, so I kind of love that. I love being the only female and the outlier in a group. But our team was 2021 Capital, and our vision was to form a venture capital firm focused on women and underrepresented groups. Now, I have a legal background. If you know about me, the financial side was not in my plans. It was not that high, but this capstone project, it gave me an opportunity to explore, to learn. It was a stretch project by all means. And it put another side of the world in my heart. It put something else that I didn't think that I would be able to do in my heart. So eventually I do want to get back into that. At the moment, I am picking up some pieces of things that I let fall to the wayside while I completed my program. But I am making my way back and utilizing the UCLA platform, which I believe has now completed me. And it's made me believe that I am complete and I can move forward and, go after my dreams and start walking again. And that was my whole purpose of coming to California. So that's my long-winded story. And I'm going to tee up Javier.
Thank you, Tori, so much for sharing. And again, I love each of your unique stories. Thank you for sharing that journey and kind of what some of those learning takeaways you had are from the program, even some of those like things that feel a little less intangible. I love that about your story. So thank you for that. And Javier, can't wait to hear from you, and then we'll open it up to questions, but I'm excited to hear about your journey as well.
Thank you. First of all, so honored to be in the same panel with this powerful woman. Thank you for such inspiring stories. It's amazing. I went to, I'm an EMBA 2020. I actually went to school with Belinda. I can tell you firsthand how amazing it has been to see her grow into this amazing person. She was already amazing, but even more amazing. and same thing. I got to tell you, the EMBA program has been fundamentally transformational for me. Let me start with introducing myself. So my name is Javier Jauregui. I work as the Global Vice President of Robotic Solutions and Strategic Partnerships for a company called ESAP. I mainly focus on both organic and inorganic growth in the manufacturing and automation market. And I also work as a consultant for private equity and advisor to startups. And one thing I can tell you is there was a life before UCLA and a life post UCLA. And I have to echo Sumida when she says, you are in my case, my background is I'm an engineer by trade. And before UCLA, I basically got typecasted into this role of being the R&D VP or the R&D director, always the R&D guy, always the guy who only knew how to make things, but never could translate that into business. Right before I joined UCLA, I also started working with a startup. We were a team of 3 people, and going to UCLA for me was a way to do 2 things: get out of this typecast situation where I would only be considered for technical positions, and then maybe give me the tools to take the startup that we were working on to the next level. And the reality is that as much as we had a great product and a great idea, we were not getting any traction. We had a family and friends $50,000 fund that was running low, and the reality is that we were not going anywhere. So then I joined UCLA, and everything was transformational. But I do have to emphasize that the programs that really made an impact in my professional development were the BCO program, and then the certificates. Because as much as you think you know what you want to do with your career, again, I thought I wanted to climb the corporate ladder, and I thought an alternative path would be to go through my own startup. Once you go through UCLA, there are so many doors that become open, and you get exposed to so many things that as you're thinking you're going in a direction, you will likely switch and pivot, and you sometimes don't know which direction to go. So something that I did to add a little bit of a structure, because I don't want to contradict myself here. My best advice to you as you're considering going through this journey is think about what you like, think about your passions, and then try to align the types of classes and electives that you take following that. Because you don't want to just follow a trend. You do want to follow what you like to do as a person, because at the end of the day, that's what will make you happy. But as I say that, I try to give myself some structure, and I ask some fundamental questions. And one of the fundamental questions was, do I want to stay in tech? The second question was, do I want to go into business? And yes, of course, that's the area that I want to work into. And then the third question was whether I wanted this position to be local or global. And I do have a passion for travel. I love other cultures. And I answered that question also on the positive. I realized, hey, I want to be somebody that will be not just local, but international. So answering those three questions, I selected 3 certificates. One was entrepreneurship. The other one was international business. And the other one was basically technology. I ended up getting 2 out of the 3, but I took enough class. I think I was short of 1 for my technology certificate. But I tell you, it really changed everything as I knew it. From the startup, before the program, as I mentioned, we were struggling to get financing. By the time I was done with the program, we had been funded at almost $3 million, and now we're at $9 million. Many of the doors that previously had been closed for us in terms of pitching, all of a sudden were open as soon as there was somebody there with an Anderson degree. At the same time, especially in Southern California, the network of Anderson alumni that are in private equity, venture capital, angel investors is huge. It's huge. So just having that name there opens a bunch of gates. In addition to that, I can't emphasize enough how professors in the BCO program are available to you outside of class. It's just amazing how much they would free their time up to help me. And I'm it's not just me. You can hear from Belinda and everybody else that they'll just make time. I remember there was one crucial moment when we were negotiating our term sheet with Upfront Capital, and Professor Shinerock basically, I called him at an ungodly hour. He basically replied, I don't know, the guy probably doesn't sleep either. And he helped us out and, make sure that our term sheet was presentable in a way that we would be in a good position against the investors. So amazing resources. But also something that I want to put on the table for all of you guys that are thinking about entrepreneurship. Something else that UCLA gives you is the network and the preparation, not to only look at entrepreneurship in the classic way. Something to think about is entrepreneurship through acquisitions and entrepreneurship through corporations. So with acquisitions, you will get all the tools that you will need to put together a deck that you can then present to a private equity company or a angel investor when it comes to acquiring an existing company and then turning it around. That's something that actually I explored with with some support from some of the professors and my classmates, more importantly. And things didn't work out the way we wanted it because of COVID. It was just an unfortunate event. But the experience of going through that, going through the due diligence, going through the final rounds of due diligence before acquiring a company, it's just something that you can put on your resume, and it keeps opening doors. So lots of resources. And finally, one thing I can tell you is, in my case, today I do, as I mentioned, I do some of the coaching and the advising and mentoring. But I decided that a path for me to go through an alternative way of entrepreneurship was to carve my own path within my company. And after I graduated, I had a couple of opportunities, and I presented my case to my corporation. I said, hey, you know, guys, I'm planning to leave because this is what I'm pursuing. And having taken all these classes at the MBA allowed me to negotiate a new position for myself. So today, the position I work with at the corporation is basically a startup within the corporation. We didn't have a robotics and analytics division. So they say, hey, you know, why look outside? You have all these different qualities. Why don't you start a company within our company, and you will work on startup mode? We'll give you a budget. You'll be able to acquire some smaller startups. So my point with this is, you don't have to be set in a certain direction. You can have the entrepreneurship spirit in you and still form it and craft it to make you happy. And all those tools will be given to you in the program. I think you'll have an amazing time. And I cannot tell you enough how important and life-changing it is to join Anderson. It'll be great for you.
Thank you, Javier. Again, love hearing your update. And again, just different paths. And that's what's so unique. I mean, we could have had 30 students and alumni here, and each person has a distinct story and distinct reason of kind of where this helped them reach your goals. So thank you for sharing that, and congrats on where you are. So let's now open it. I know we're a more smaller, intimate group here, so we're going to just kind of not pin anyone. And please, I hope for those of you that are joining us today, you see what an open environment this is, to be able to just ask these alumni what questions are on your mind as you think about starting on this journey. They're open to kind of anything on any topic, I think. So please, just feel free to unmute, or you can put it in the chat if you want, but feel free to unmute if you just want to ask your question. Che?
Yeah, hi. Thank you so much for all the great stories. This is fascinating and very encouraging. I mean, if you guys are not in sales, you should be, because you're selling the school really well. What I wanted to ask you is, do you think you got what you expected, or did you expect any of these outcomes before you join, after, while you're going through the reviews? And so did it, how does it compare to your expectations from the before and after you finished?
I can answer. I can start at least. It's a really great question. I think I got a lot out of the program. Obviously, some of the things that these like Sumita and Tori talked about, like the support network and the programs, and everything that UCLA and actually the UC system as a whole offers. I mean, yeah, I feel like I really got to a really great place. Obviously, you can see from some of the things I mentioned in my presentation. But I'll say I got those things because I really leaned into it. Like I said, okay, how much is my tuition? I'm going to milk this organization for every single penny I put into it. And so it really does depend on you leaning in and exploring things. Don't expect everyone in the program to spoon feed you the programs or things. I mean, part of entrepreneurship is you got to figure it out. You got to find your way, right? So the same thing applies here. Yesterday, I was on a panel and people were like, well, does someone give you a list of all of these resources and names? I'm like, Bro, if you're asking that, entrepreneurship is not for you. Go get a corporate job because they do give you that list. Entrepreneurship, I mean, I wish and pray every day someone would give me a list of mentors and advisors that will like literally are also investors and are angel investors. Like they do that for you here for the most part at Anderson, but you got to go find that yourself. So that's my recommendation to you is like, if you're going to do it, if it's this program, any program, you get what you put into it. And it's like an investment bank, right? Like Anderson and that experience is still paying me dividends, of that investment. But I took the time, I created the relationships between the different partners and the organizations and things like that. And that's why I got a lot out of it.
Just to piggyback on that, I agree with 100% with Belinda. You're going to get what you put in. And another important aspect, Belinda touched upon it, is the relationships with the professors. So your BCO professor, your EVI, which is the Entrepreneurship and Venture Initiative, your professors will be your key resources because they can connect you to other key resources. So it's that line from one of my favorite shows, The Walking Dead, people are your greatest resource. So really take advantage of the faculty and your classmates and alum. And then you can get even more than you expected.
Awesome.
One more area that I think I've noticed that some of my cohort friends may not have taken as much advantage. And I always recommend this is an area that anybody coming in should. It's the international exposure. All those international programs are amazing. And to give you an example, I was in Barcelona last week and I had gone to the exchange program at ESADE during which is the business university in Barcelona. And I went there sponsored by the university. I went there last week and I texted a few of the people, including some of the professors. And, they were so welcoming to just bring me back to the school, talk to people, say, hey, just shake hands, give an update of where am I in my professional career. And this is something that if it wasn't through UCLA, I wouldn't have been able to have access to. But to Belinda's point, I looked for it. I applied to the program. I searched for it. You need to do that. You need to look for all these paths and try to take as much advantage as you can.
Thank you.
The only thing I would add to that is, oh, sorry, Shannon. I was just going to say, look, when I was a student, the best advice Belinda gave to me was use that student card and get the interviews with like competitors because you're not a threat to them. Talk about, how you're doing this academic project and, hey, you could hustle and get your company going at the same time. That's totally fine. You're not deceptive. You're a student, you're doing research and you need to understand the market. So it's a great opportunity to do that. The other thing is all of these business competitions, they have a requirement that you be an active student. And that's like, check. So get all those hustle. You have to hustle. And I mean, none of this is going to be like handed to you like, oh, here's a curated list of these wonderful competitions. You should get on some key distros like Anderson Venture Accelerator does have some curated lists. But again, you have to find this stuff and have the initiative and the drive to go do it yourself.
Thank you all for sharing.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course, Connie.
Great. Hi, everybody. I'm in the midst of applications and I just wanted to get your advice on, did you fret during this process? What's your best advice in coming out on the other side, just mentally, because it's kind of a stressful process while maintaining a full-time job.
I can just share my perspective. I'm one of those people that just like, I hope for the best. I don't know, maybe I'm just like very optimistic, but I just said, with everything that I do, I'm like, just going to do the best that I possibly can and then just leave it to the gods, which is in this case, Shannon and Christina. So anyways, you just literally just do your best and put it out there, if you need help with your application, I'm happy to read your essays or whatever, and maybe provide some tips or anything, just however I can personally help you. But just, send it around to some friends who actually have gone to MBA programs in the past, have them read it. I had my friends who actually went to Wharton and Harvard, and I said, can you read my application and give me some feedback? So that's what I did. And then after you submit it, it's just like, and if you get in and you don't, whatever, you cross that bridge when you get there. But just for now, it's the holidays, just try to relax and enjoy and ask for help.
Connie, just be you. Like, seriously, when you're writing your personal statement, just be you, because there's no point in trying to be anyone else. You're going to be the best you, and just be the best you and the best version of you as pre-MBA, and then version 2.0, improved Connie, post-MBA.
I love that. I'll chime in as Connie, as admissions team here. We welcome for you to be able to meet with one of us one-on-one, or send us your LinkedIn profile or something like that, and ask, is there anything you see holes in? Like, we're a very customer service focused. I hope that's what we aim to be. And I think what everyone said, I say that all the time. I even say, like, you're not trying to win an essay writing competition. We want you to show up as you. We want you to be authentic to what your goals really are, because a lot of what we do in the screening process is, if your goals don't align with something we think the program can deliver, we're going to be honest to you. This is an expensive program. It's a lot of your time. So we really are just looking for people who are willing to be, like, vulnerable, share who they are, share the reason they want to do this. And so, but if you have any concerns, please just reach out to us. And I say that to anybody else as well.
And Shannon, let me piggyback on that, because that's really what helped me in my case. I drove by UCLA on a 405 for a few years before I applied, and I always thought of this application process as being such a burden. It took one day for me to stop by the office and meet Shannon and Christina, and it went from years of thinking about applying to, like, 3 weeks later I was applying, and they guided me through the process, and they'll help you a lot.
Yeah, and I'll put my email. I'll put my email directly in here for anyone that wants. I will say I'm going to be out just for the holidays, but I'll be back and get to you. But this is my email address, and then you can always email EMBA admissions. I'm putting that in here as well, and we can deal with that as well. But please, I encourage you to reach out to us. And just again, Connie, we look forward to just meeting you for who you are. So thanks, Samita. I thought that was great advice.
Thank you all.
Can I ask one more question?
Sure.
This is more logistics. Yeah, seems that you guys had a very full experience and successful experience there too. So what was your time commitment? How much did you spend in, generally speaking, to get where you are?
I'll start this time, because I was not the academic whiz kid in the class. I was the reason for the curve for a lot of people, and I'm okay being that person. My goal with coming into UCLA, the MBA, was like, okay, I wanted a seat at the table, much like Javier was talking about, just being just like where you feel alienated. If you're a tech person, you feel alienated from the business people, and you're just not allowed to give your opinion. And so I wanted that. And then my goal changed when I saw these opportunities for entrepreneurship. And so my focus on that was to get the entrepreneurship experience. So I really focused on the biodesign program, and I got an A in that one. So I did do really well in that BCO, but was I going to do double ledger accounting? No, not important to me, but I understand it.
Yeah. Also, I'll tell you, in my case, it's a huge time investment. It's huge. And there's a lot of work. but you're not alone. Your teammates help you. Your class, it's really important in the process. They keep you sane, but it will require a lot of time and investment. Now, everybody's journey is different. Like Sumita was saying, sometimes, like in my case, I just realized that I couldn't go for being the A+ student, because then something else will fall. So I had to, in some cases, make compromises. There were other classmates that were the A+ students and had a family and had everything else that that everybody else deals with, and they still were able to do very well. So, but in average, it's a lot of time.
I'll just add, Che, I think it's a really important question. I know everyone's worried about how much time is it going to take. Like, am I going to be studying at 3 a.m. and things like that? I would just say, like, I think you'll figure it out. You're an executive. You've led teams, and you figured it out then. You'll figure it out now. It's like it's a change and an adjustment. Like Javi said, the class, we're all in this together. And so everyone's sharing their resources. Everyone is helping each other out. So you are not alone. And you will figure it out. I have full confidence that if you've been thinking about this kind of world-class program, that you'll figure out what the time commitment is that you need. For me personally, I don't know if you have kids at home or a spouse, but before I started the program, I sat down with my husband and I said, look, things are going to change. And this is where you need to step in. You need to do X, Y, and Z. I'm not going to be doing X, Y, and Z. We're going to get some nannies to come in. My mom's going to move in for a couple months out of the year. Like, we had to make adjustments to accommodate for it. And it worked. So you'll figure it out. I have confidence in that.
Yeah. And just one more thing to add. Something that an alum said to us when we started is that if you're going for this solely to be that A+ student, you're going to miss out on a lot of things. So go with, eyes wide open to get the experience. And that's the best experience that you need for you and your goals. Don't just focus on the grades.
Right. Thank you.
I love everything that we say. We say this at the beginning of the program, and it's hard for some people to register, but very interesting that the 4 here who, are successes, big successes of the program, say that. So I love hearing that. Thank you, Che, for the question.
Can I just add, I know people aren't asking this, but like everyone's like the underlying question is like, is this worth it? Is the juice worth the squeeze, right? And the answer is, it's probably yes. I mean, everyone has a unique situation, but I'll say that I am a completely better person personally going through this program. Yesterday, I went to campus and I saw our program managers, Nan and Jared, and we were like schoolgirls, like just squealing and running into each other's arms. And I mean, where else do you get that in your life? Even my own family doesn't react to me like that. And so this program, honestly, these are my lifelong friends. These are people that I will know forever and ever. And they're going to continue to support me, I know, for the rest of my life, even beyond my career. So if you're looking for like that other family, that other community, the people who are truly going to support you, I truly believe it's this specific program.
Yeah, go ahead, Kurt.
Yeah, just a quick question about the whole reason I haven't applied for years and years is just the logistics of it. Too busy in the day job. I'm really glad to hear echoes of myself here, the engineering guy who doesn't feel like he has a seat at the business table. That's huge. So, work for a big company. There's certain amount of vertical room left to go at this company, but the big issue is just taking the time, the logistics. Just wondering if any of you also went through the program outside of the LA area and what that was like for you to do that. Is it even like seriously possible to do that without kind of destroying your life?
I'm in Texas, and I did the program from Texas. And I talked with the Chris Sarika, Shannon, Christina, Judy. I mean, gosh, I was thinking of doing the NUS program at that point, to a certain extent. I was like, I can't do this. But they have a monthly program that allows you to do that. And what a great way to spend your quote free time hanging out at LA. I don't know where you are, Kurt, but I mean, if I can do it from Texas, you can do it.
Actually, we had a classmate in Brazil.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Where are you based, Kurt?
I'm in the Bay Area. I'm in San Jose. I actually, if there was a time to begin thinking about it, it would be now, because I just sent my daughter off to Fullerton, so she's down there. So it's basically, it would be kind of an interesting time to do this. I just don't know what 24 plane flights or whatever that is going to look like. But
you get lots of points. It works.
Lots of points. Southwest.
Kurt, just one quick thing that may be helpful here. Yes, so we had a few classmates that were from out of town. Now, from the work-life balance, I tell you, when I started the program, I was under a lot of pressure at work, and the type of additional work and pressure you get at the school is actually quite gratifying. You end up learning a lot of things that you immediately apply at work. And then you also start getting perspective, because sometimes you're so into what you do, especially being in tech, that you need this fresh breath of air to tell you, maybe I need to step back and do things differently. So that was really helpful to me. And one last thing, I did search around for other schools that were closer. One thing about UCLA it was that they're very diverse in terms of the backgrounds of the people that join the program. When you go to other programs, you may be part of a bigger population of tech background people. At UCLA, not being part of like this mass group of people with tech backgrounds give you a definitive edge, and it opens your horizons, because then you end up working with people that are not necessarily in tech, and it becomes therapeutic. Actually, like for me, going to class on a weekend was more of a therapy and relaxation time. Of course, there was difficulty, but you manage to make it work. You manage to make it work in your favor.
Yeah, I'll just add, Kurt, to about actually only 50% of our students live in the LA area. So if that just gives you an idea, the Bay Area, very popular. And it is, I always ask, but especially those people not coming from SoCal, which is a significant number that are coming even out of state. We get I just talked to a great one from Texas, Samita, the other day, even East Coast. I say, like, why Anderson? And it is almost always what Javier is saying, which is that up in the Bay Area, Berkeley Haas is our sister school. Wharton has a great program with there. It's going to be so tech heavy, and Wharton's going to be so finance heavy. That is the way we recruit. That's our biggest differentiator, I think, is that we don't have dominant industries down here in LA. We have a couple. And so you get a wide variety. So just continue to check out our class profile and speak with students. But that would be, I think, probably one of the big whys for worth the travel.
Kurt, I just want to say one person in our class came from Moscow. So, and he was flying in like every couple of weeks. I will also say lots of people coming in from the Bay Area, so y'all can jump on the same flight, come on in. I'll tell you, everyone who came from out of town, who came in like every few weeks or once a month, it was just like, oh, so fun, like you're seeing your buddies, you're not distracted by, home life or work life. You can like decompress, have a drink, just be you and enjoy with your like new friends. It's spectacular. It is like a little mini vacation. So don't think of it as a burden. Think about it as like, this is your weekend off to go and enjoy and expand your mind and your network and hang out with some really cool people.
Great info. Thank you. I can't go to Berkeley. I'm a former UCLA student, so not okay. It's UCLA or bust.
I know we are getting towards time, but if there's any other burning questions, this has been a great event. So if you do have to drop, but I really appreciate those of you that did come here. It was a smaller group, and just we are going to use these video snippets, like I have to say, because there's great questions. But again, for any of you that have, I don't know if Belinda and Javier and Tori have a few more minutes, if there's any kind of last minute questions. All right. Well, then to all of you, thank you so much for joining to the prospects. Like, congratulations for just, I think like each step you get to and you learn something, and we hope we'll see you again, and we hope you'll connect with us. To our alumni, oh my gosh, I wish I could give you all the biggest hug. So such a big hug. Congrats on all your success. You know where to find us if you ever need anything. And just everyone, I hope you have a wonderful holiday. Stay safe, stay healthy, and we hope to hear from all of you soon.
Thank you, guys. Go Bruins.
Yeah.
Thank you.